Rum. Pow. Do you like Star Wars books? I do. And there are so many tiers of canonicity, especially since this past year, that sometimes it feels as though you're living in a different corner of the Star Wars universe than everyone else. I thought I'd make this film about the books that I've read in the Star Wars series, to see if any of you have read the same ones. Or perhaps, if you're new to Star Wars books, you'll get some ideas about where you'd like to start. Legacy of the Jedi and the Jedi Path. Legacy of the Jedi is a set of 4 short stories circling around a common theme, covering generations from when Dooku is a young person to when Anakin is. The Jedi Path is both a textbook of temple history, meditation, and combat, and a comedy, a book passed from master to apprentice for generations, much similar to the Legacy of the Jedi. Then there are autobiographies and first-person accounts from different eras of the Star Wars timeline. Kratos' memoirs, Darth Maul, Queen Amidala, and Anakin. Circa the Phantom Menace, Episode 1. Anakin from Jedi Quest. Ezra from Star Wars Rebels. Princess Leia, Han, and Luke. Circa the original trilogy. Then there is the Jedi Apprentice series, The Rising Force, The Dark Rival, The Hidden Past, The Mark of the Crown, The Defenders of the Dead, The Uncertain Path, The Captive Temple, The Day of Reckoning, The Fight for Truth, The Shattered Peace, The Deadly Hunter, The Evil Experiment, The Dangerous Rescue, The Ties That Bind, The Death of Hope, The Call to Vengeance, The Only Witness, and The Threat Within. Also Deceptions in the Following, which they called special editions because they each had 2 shorter novels, one with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and one with Obi-Wan and Anakin. The Jedi Apprentice series focuses around Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. It opens when Obi-Wan is 12 and afraid that he'll be shuffled off to the agricultural corps rather than being trained as a Jedi Knight. Qui-Gon Jinn has refused to take an apprentice for many years, but Obi-Wan is determined to become his Padawan. With 20 books, there are parts of this series which feel less inspired than others, but overall this is one of the most diverse and exciting sequences that I have read in the Star Wars universe. Its covers begin the noble tradition of playing fast and loose with the appearance and lightsaber design and color of the major characters. Joy! And it provides exciting proofreading practice. The Jedi Quest series, The Way of the Apprentice, The Trail of the Jedi, The Dangerous Games, The Master of Disguise, The School of Fear, The Shadow Trap, The Moment of Truth, The Changing of the Guard, The False Peace, and The Final Showdown. The Jedi Quest series takes place in between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and focuses on Anakin's apprenticeship. It's only half the length of the Jedi Apprentice series, and each of the books seems to tie in to a more propulsive finale. It is also much darker than the Jedi Apprentice series because we are in Anakin's head so much of the time. It introduces other characters, focusing not just on Obi-Wan and Anakin, but also on Siri Tashi and her Padawan Feruzolen, Raigol and his apprentice Truveld, and Soara Antana and Dara Tatanis, making this series more of an ensemble piece, where in Jedi Apprentice, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are most noticeably the stars of the show. The first book in the Jedi Quest series, The Path to Truth, didn't have a number, and didn't even have The Path to Truth written on the spine, but it is inside several pages. Sometimes it's referred to as 0 now. Fight to Survive, Crossfire, Maze of Deception, Hunted, A New Threat, and Pursuit are the books in the Boba Fett series, a sequence which begins during Attack of the Clones and continues on until Boba is nearly an adult. The Bounty Hunter Code ties into this series significantly. The first half is an Imperial edition of the Bounty Hunter Code, presumably passed to Boba in adulthood, but the second half is a text handed down from his father. Kratos' memoirs are also inscribed to Boba and have annotations from him, tying them into this series. The Last of the Jedi series, The Desperate Mission, Dark Warning, Underworld, Death on Naboo, A Tangled Web, Return of the Dark Side, Secret Weapon, Against the Empire, Master of Deception, and Reckoning. The Desperate Mission is my favorite Star Wars book of all time, but Reckoning is my least favorite, so I have mixed feelings about this series. It is more of an ensemble piece than Jedi Quest. At the same length, it feels much more sporadic. Taking place post-Revenge of the Sith, the series starts brilliantly and is one of the strongest moments in the Star Wars canon, but seems to lose steam, particularly by the 5th book, A Tangled Web. There is a title change from The Last of the Jedi to just Last of the Jedi between 5 and 6, which is indicative of where the series is going. And while 6 through 9 possess some aesthetically resonant scenes, the series never regains the excitement of the first volume. Reckoning itself has some good moments. None of the episodes are without redemptive value, but in concluding the series, the 3 protagonists left standing each break character in a serious and rather unforgivable way, only to go back to being themselves a few pages later and act as though nothing has happened. If you're going to read this book, I suggest using chapter 20 as a 1-page chapter, which will still end on a sentence, and then going straight to chapter 21. You'll lose a major plot element, but I guarantee that it makes more sense than reading the entire thing. This year, the Star Wars Rebels series has begun releasing books Edge of the Galaxy, Ezras Gamble, Rise of the Rebels, The Rebellion Begins, and Droids in Distress so far. Oh, brilliant. Particularly the epigram from Charles Dickens. Way to raise the diction level, guys. Hardcore. And Ezra's Gamble has been scientifically proven to be beneficial for the immortal soul, so that's always worth checking out. Target, Hostage, Renegade, Firefight, Trapped, and Uprising are the Rebel Force series, which was released before the Star Wars Rebels series was developed. It focuses on Han, Luke, and Leia in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. Wheeler does a brilliant job. apart from the fact that he or she is stuck trying to clean up from the end of Reckoning, which this series follows rather closely. Well, not in chronology, but in ethos. These 3 are biographies: The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, A New Hope, and The Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Then there are the 6 novelizations based on the movies: The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Then there's a wide assortment of interactive books: Decide Your Destiny, Choose Your Own Adventure, Rashomon in Outer Space, multiple path books, whatever you want to call them. From circa The Phantom Menace, we have Search for the Lost Jedi, The Bartok Assassins, The Fury of Darth Maul, Jedi Emergency, and The Bongo Rally. Circa Attack of the Clones, we have Hunt the Sunrunner and The Cavern of the Screaming Skulls. Most recently, I've been working on these. Unfortunately, they sort of ended this series in the middle. It's quite a shame that they did. The series was set up to introduce rudimentary scientific principles to young people in the guise of fiction. There are these little books: Cloak of Deception, Rogue Planet, The Approaching Storm, Shatterpoint, and Labyrinth of Evil. The Battle for Ryloth, which I believe is integrated with the Clone Wars television series, although I have not seen all the episodes of that yet. And The Phantom Menace has a graphic novel which has these kind of drawings. Also, there was a 2-issue miniseries, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, The Orient Express. Here's what the drawing style for it looks like. There have been some other comic books about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and numerous other Star Wars comics in general, but these are the 2 I've read so far. Hopefully the Tales of the Rebels will continue, and I have a theory about them, but that would include spoilers not only for Rebels, but for quite a few of these books. But if you look at these images and you read Arabesh, you probably already know what I'm talking about. Do you see it? May the Force be with you. Always.